He comments. When he becomes fully matured, he will probably be one of the strongest stealth talent in the world. Already he is invaluable to the werewolf community. Wow, I think of Cheeky, Skinny Yi, the strongest stealth talent in the world. No way. He's too immature to be something like that. We start up again, and I start to feel more comfortable by Xavier's side. The world blurs slightly around us, and I can sense his alluring presence washing over me like a flood. However, as the school begins to come into view just over the tips of the trees, a strange feeling of cold fear starts to collide with the peace, and I suddenly get shivers running up and down my spine. My knees begin to shake, and my grasp on Xavier's comforting arm gets crushingly hard. Ow, Xavier rips his arm from my grip. That actually hurt. He looks at his now red skin, indented with nails, a slight amount of blood seeping forth. I nearly gape at the pain I inflicted on Xavier's supposedly indestructible arm, wondering exactly what I will be capable of in the days to come. Xavier seems to be thinking along those lines too, being deep in thought. We continue to travel through the bushes into the narrow pathway leading to school. My breaths become faster, and more frenzied as we go along. Calm down, Xavier's relaxing, musical voice enchants my senses as it wraps around my innermost fears. Students begin to merge with us in clumps as our feet pound on the sidewalk. I can feel them immediately latch upon me like lasers, burning holes through my skin. Immediately I try to shrink, wishing I could scurry like a rat into a hole in the wall. I am tempted to use my speed and zoom away from the rude people who only want to gossip and stare. I feel as if I am under a microscope, being scrutinized at every second. As the crowd grows thicker with interested observers, I begin to hear what immediately comes after an intense gaze. Who's she? Whispers erupt all around me. I can hear almost everything now, and I can easily overhear their words. Who knows? Maybe she's new. Look at those long legs. She's like a model. Who is that hot chick by the blue-haired guy? She looks like that ugly girl that always used to walk around scrunched over with a pissed-off expression on her face, except prettier. Much prettier. Even Sydney is not as gorgeous as this girl. Who the crap is she? I hear Sydney's shrill, whispering voice as she walks a couple feet away from me. I shudder slightly. We entered the school. Xavier reaching to hold my hand. I look at the amused people around us, suddenly flushed with embarrassment, and snap my hand away. Not here, I whisper angrily, though what I really meant is not ever. I am not going to let him disarm me again. The wall to my heart shall not tumble to ruin. However, he is making it shake, and that is what is scaring me so much. I don't like to be vulnerable, and Xavier is doing an awful good job of making me feel that way. I am independent. I can't lean on anybody, for all they do is leave. My mind flashes back to that time, and my blood runs cold. One more hammer to my heart, and it will fall to pieces forever. Xavier frowns at me slightly. What's up with you? He says, staring into my soul with bright emerald eyes. Penny for your thoughts. I'm sorry. Xavier, I sigh. But right now, they are worth much more than that. Name your price. I look up from the floor into Xavier's serious eyes, at the absolute certainty of his words. All I do is just gently shake my head, unable to give them away. I am not ready. I wince inwardly as his hand touches mine, and then retreats as if he had committed some sort of crime. Our classroom stands before us, reeking with boredom. This was the class with that uber-lazy teacher who just types on his computer all day long. Also, the only one I have with that vicious serpent named Sydney. And this one just has to be first. Let's just get it over with, Xavier says, propelling me into the room to find our desks. The stares are worse here, people openly scavenging me, scanning my new appearance. It is just like before, except that I am practically imprisoned in here with them until the mischievous bell rings. Sydney flounces into the room, her long, blonde tresses flowing past her upper back. She is adorned in a light pink baby doll dress, one a bit too short to be decent, and 5-inch wedges. Her baby blue eyes scan the room for a moment, then focuses on my form. She walks over to my side, a light, happy smile on her face. Hey Mona, she greets me. Hey Xavier, I slightly smile back, unconvinced by her friendliness. Nice and Sydney are two words that do not mix. Hey Sydney, I speak, once again amazed by the prettiness of my voice. It is like an orchestra, a melodious harmony of notes coming together to create a few words. Sydney notices this, her smile growing a little tight-lipped. She obviously misses the time when my voice sounded grainy and weak. That is such an adorable outfit, she practically squeals. I love that top. Thanks, my smile grows a little wider and more rapturous. I'm pleased that someone likes the attire I so carefully selected. Maybe she is thinking along the lines of, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. I honestly have no clue why she is like this. Xavier flashes her one of his golden grins too, causing Sydney to melt into a puddle on the floor. He seems very happy that Sydney is being nice to me. Sydney senses this, and craftily slinks to her seat as the fat teacher finally gets up from his perch on the swivel chair. Hello, class, he emits with a voice like a geek, assuming and haughty. Today you need to turn to page 787 in your textbook. He rambles on for a minute, then quickly concludes his daily 2-minute speech. Read chapter 14, section 9, and answer all the following questions. What you do not finish is homework. He shuffles from the front of the classroom to the back of it, plopping down on his favorite plush chair. He never actually teaches us anything, just telling us to read. No one ever does homework in his class either, because he never checks. Except me. I'm the only one that gets annoyed with my teacher because I actually want to learn something. I quickly flip the textbook open to the correct page, while the others all whip out their phones and start texting and shouting to their friends across the room. Sydney starts whispering to Ian, and Xavier turns to me with a reassuring smile. You're going to do the lesson, he asks innocently. I nod slowly, beginning to sink into the paragraphs of knowledge, delving completely into the foreign lands I love to explore. I can feel a set of emerald eyes focus on my face as I read, interest clearly shown. You're so beautiful when you are like this, he says softly, almost mumbling to himself. Like what? I almost shiver at his words, so full of caring and devotion. When you are reading, you seem so peaceful. Serene, he closes his eyes, leaning back against his chair. Like an angel. I met one once, you know. He is speaking barely above a whisper, so soft that only I can hear. When? I ask eagerly. Well, right before I was converted. I was dying. The werewolf had practically torn me to pieces, and the pain was, well, no words can describe it. I was floating between delusions and reality. Then, right before his blood touched my skin, I had a dream. His eyes turn glassy as time ticks back for him. It was about heaven and hell. Tell me about it, I demand, leaning towards him. I can sense his closeness, his dizzyingly attractive smell that nearly forces me to attack him with my heavy desire. I was on an island, completely alone. It was basically just a patch of sand, surrounded by miles and miles of ocean. A beautiful angel descended out of the clouds, heading my way. Along with her, a set of stairs appeared. Pure white and leading into the clouds. However, when she extended her long, pale white hand, I could not take it. I reached as hard as I could, but right before I could even get within a foot of those stairs and the woman, they would seemingly get farther away. Right beneath me, however, it was a different story. The sand rumbled and turned as hot as coals. Fire was immediately dancing beneath my feet. I howled in pain, running around the island to escape the burning. Finally, though, I was trapped in a circle, fire surrounding me at every angle. The woman was right outside the circle, and I felt that if I could only escape this prison, I would finally be able to reach her. But just before I ran through the fire, the whole island began to sink. Water began to creep up at every angle, waters so red that it seemed stained with blood. When I peered into the ocean as it nearly swallowed me, I saw that beneath me was a boiling pit of fire, and I was about to sink into it. Before long, the island would disappear completely, leaving me at the mercy of whatever was below. It was then that the woman stared at me and gave a short little smile, disappearing into the mist like a ghost. The stairs went away too, leaving only me, the ruby-red ocean, and the cauldron below. I lean forwards, spellbound by his story. The way he speaks makes the story seem so real, as if it happened to me instead. What next? Nothing. I woke up, and found that I was a werewolf, Xavier says laughingly. Otherwise, I think I would have sunk into the pit. There is a buzzing sound, and he grabs his top-of-the-line phone out of his pocket. Many people turn their heads to look at the expensive limited edition luxury item in his hand. Xavier casually lifting it to his head to take the call. Yes. Wes, his face is first of excitement, then melts into fury. After a moment of listening, he nods solemnly. I'll help out, he says reluctantly. Just send someone to get me. At this school, you have to do this strange thing called checking out. Within a few minutes, a robotic voice echoes through the hallways. Xavier Rochester, please come to the front desk to check out. Rochester. We had to make up the last name, he whispers quickly. Anyways. I will be back at 3 o'clock to pick you up. Apparently there is a rogue shifter running around. Killing everything it sees. We need to capture it before the police does. Can I come, I beg. I'm sure I can bring out a shifter from a person again, that one time was enough to convince me. No, he says firmly. This one is really bad. I don't want it within 10 miles of you until we secure it. All shifters seem to have it out for you. He rises from his desk, majestically heading towards the door. He gives me a little wave as he exits. Not even noticing the adoring stares following him. As soon as the door shuts, the Viper strikes. Well, look here, the Barbie girl rises from her seat. Mona is finally without her shield, everyone turns to look at us. Once again. Sydney has scored center stage, and pulled me along with her. Now that he's gone, why don't you tell us who did your plastic surgery? I didn't get. Obviously you did, she laughs. Tossing her curls behind her back. So you could keep Xavier, Sydney leans in, pure menace behind her words. Xavier is just talking to you because he feels sorry for you. You are a weak, pathetic, ugly little loser who forced Xavier to stay beside you. We would also like to know how exactly you did that, witch. You better start confessing now. Everyone wants to know the truth. She pushes me, and I land on the cold, hard floor. Everything around me seems so painful right now. So bitter. So who was it? She nearly shrieks, as I rise to my feet. Who did your surgery? Sydney, I try to yell. I couldn't have gotten surgery. It's only been 2 days. Sydney ignores me, madness in her eyes. She tries to kick me, but I block her movement. Oh, so you bewitched yourself along with Xavier, she finally comes to another outrageous conclusion. This is true proof that you are a witch. She snaps her fingers, and her girls come to my side. Each of them hold my arms to the wall with surprising force, though not nearly enough to stop me physically. However, it is the words that break me. I just stand there, sucked of all strength. Stop wishing for things that aren't yours, she creeps closer, her gorgeous eyes flecked with fury. Well, they aren't yours either, I squeak out, and she slaps me with all her might. They would be, she hisses. If you weren't here. Indignation is in her voice now, along with pure hate. Blood begins to run from my cheek, and my mind flashes back to the memory of Ms. Penn scraping my cheek also. Maybe Sydney and Ms. Penn are related. The other boys and girls crowd around us, staring at my now marred face. Sydney continues to question me relentlessly, without pause. Did you brighten your eye color, or did you get contacts? So pathetic, changing it just to match your slave's eyes. I don't have a slave, I say softly, weak as the red liquid runs down my neck. It is throbbing, the blood disgusting me. But what is disgusting me almost as much as the teacher? What the crap is he doing? Can't he notice that I'm being bullied? And probably killed by the end of the period, if this continues. Of course he's your slave. You force him to think you're beautiful, even though you aren't. You force him to hang around you, even though he deserves better than a lying witch like you, she snaps, each word like a knife stabbing into my skin. One of the girls holding me takes a peek at my skin, and gasps. Look, she yells, and everyone in the room obliges. It's healing. And so quickly, the girl continues, gazing at the now lightly scabbed skin. Quickly retreating into perfect skin again. What are you? Sydney looks in horror at the suddenly non-existent cut. I wincing. These, out of all other words, hurts me the most. I just wanted to be left alone. I didn't do anything to Sydney. Just a while ago, she didn't even know I existed. And now, I am a monster to everyone around me just because I didn't stay in my place. Because Xavier fell for me. The queen is out to get me, and her subjects just meagerly follow. You know, she says, pulling out a slender object. I wonder if a big cut will heal as quickly, you never know with a witch. Silence is stretched taut in the air, only her voice reigning. No one steps forward, though many look with eyes of horror. However, I can tell even the sympathetic ones are appalled by me, disgusted with the fact that I am different. She holds the knife closer, staring into my eyes. Where should I start? Your face. Your arms. Your boobs. Sydney casts a glance at my slightly enlarged chest, then smiles. I think I will give your face a makeover first. Because that probably took the surgeons the longest to perfect. Obviously she doesn't believe I am a witch, but is just using that to make more people hate me. I'm not going to call for Xavier. Xavier has enough things to do already. I can't depend on him anymore. She raises her arms and I close my eyes, waiting for it to come. Sydney, a rough, attractive voice stops her in her tracks. I slowly slide my eyes open to see Ian standing in front of me, a cold expression on his features. This has gone on long enough. But Ian, she whines, slinging her arms around his neck. I have to teach this thing a lesson. She gestures to me, and then swoops in for a kiss. You'll let me, right? She pouts. He stops her when she is inches from his mouth, disentangling himself from her grasp. Don't you have to be somewhere else right now? He prompts her, staring into her eyes. Her gaze becomes hazy, glassy under his gentle stare. Her next words are submissive, expressionless. Yes. Ian, she gets up and walks over to her desk. Sydney picks up her backpack and walks out the door, and the girls drop me. I fall to the floor, the tears finally coming. They gush out of me like a flood, dripping onto my shirt I thought Sydney liked. I should have known it would turn out like this. A hand wraps around my shoulder, the same relaxing voice entering my thoughts. Cheer up, Mona. Everything's okay. I look up to see the whole class staring at me, completely quiet. Look at what you did to her, Ian pointed at all of them. Each and every one of you. But we didn't hit her, one of Sydney's girls exclaims, almost as if she did nothing wrong. You didn't stop Sydney from hitting her, he gave her a steely gaze. You even helped, holding her back. I'm sorry, another one of Sydney's minions leapt out from the crowd, hugging Ian. I won't ever do something like that again. Sydney was just so, she forces up a tear, looking into his eyes. It is immediately obvious that she likes him. Get away from me, he snaps, and she looks at him sadly. I don't like liars. She retreats into the crowd, crestfallen. I hold my hands to my face, trying to stop them, but the tears keep spilling into my palm. Ian comfortingly hugs me tighter, whispering in my ear. I'm sorry I couldn't come earlier, he apologizes. I was in the bathroom. As soon as I got back. This was going on, gently he rises with me, pulling me upwards. Cheer up. I'm okay, I choke through my sadness. I thought I wasn't supposed to depend on anyone. Easily I could have broken free of those girls, but it was the words that were like true stabs in the gut. I can't understand why I can't stand up for myself. No you aren't, Ian says softly. He sneaks a look at the rock-like teacher at the computer. Stupid teacher, he mutters as he leads me into the hallway. Once we are alone, I subconsciously put my head on his shoulder, sobbing. What did I do? I pour out my fears. Not knowing quite what I am doing. Somehow his voice and presence makes me relax, makes me trust him. What did I do to deserve this? Nothing, he gently pulls apart from me, looking into my eyes. I notice that I don't have to look up so much anymore. His big blue eyes, so like Sydney's, are so close. You are a person. Just like us. Guilt flashes through me as I realize I am not truly a person. Not anymore. But please tell me, he says. Why did your cut heal so quickly? He seems more than concerned, actually interested. My heart rate quickens as I realize that maybe he thinks I am different. Maybe a person, but still different. I am different. Why am I so ashamed of it? I am not normal, I say softly. I am a monster. The tears begin again, never ceasing. Ian shakes his head. No, not a monster. I try to pull myself together. Well, I'm definitely different, I insist. I prefer calling it unique, or special, he smiles. And you aren't the only one. Carefully he looks up and down the hallway, and then pulls me into an empty room. The lights are dim, and dozens of empty desks are scattered around. Urgently he scans me, staring into my eyes. Let me see, he murmurs, all the while looking deeply at me. His gaze is penetrating, and I find myself begin to fall beneath them. Quickly I shake myself free of this daze, frightened. How can he do that with one look? I felt as if I was losing myself. So it doesn't work on you, he mumbles, breaking our mutual stare. That's what I thought. He breaks into an enchanting smile. It is then that I notice how good-looking he is. He has light chestnut hair, tanned skin, and a muscular body that is similar to Xavier's attractive build. Why do all these handsome guys keep popping up around me nowadays? Mona. I'm just like you, he grabs my hands. They feel soft and warm in his huge grasp, my slender hands fitting perfectly. I'm special. Special? In what way? Xavier suddenly flashes through my head. He's special, too, even more so than me. However, he doesn't regard it as a bad thing, and my classmates don't bully him like they do me. Why am I treated so different? Why do I treat myself so different? Since birth, I have been able to hypnotize women, he says, a little bit too eager for my taste. I almost leap away from him. I definitely wasn't expecting that. But once I think about it, that would make sense. The way Sydney just obeyed Ian. Did you hypnotize Sydney into liking you? I ask. She's just a toy, he shakes his head. I don't hypnotize people, especially my toys, into liking me. They all fall for my stellar good looks, Ian grins, showing me a killer bicep. I laugh. This is almost as hilarious and strangely creepy as when Xavier said he was a werewolf almost immediately after meeting me. I thought people couldn't really hypnotize others, I giggle. Ian gasps jokingly. Mona. Hypnotizing is an art. People practice it all over the world. I just have an extra special gift for it. He is still grasping my hands tightly, and suddenly I feel the need to escape. I'm going to break up with Sydney, he says. Someone who I can't hypnotize is much more interesting to me. He shoots me a wink. I like not being the controlling one. What? I am growing nervous now. What does he mean? I'm going to make you mine, but without the hypnotizing. I want to see if I can do it, he grins. A hint of determination is in his eyes. No, I back away, accidentally knocking into a desk. It tumbles over, hitting the ground with a clash. Fear is now in my steps. I don't want Ian. I've finally found someone as special as I am, he tightens his grip. This will be a fun game. The fear immediately recedes, and now I am almost consumed with laughter. So this is a game to him. He doesn't truly like me, but he wants me to fall for him. I smile good-naturedly. So this isn't love of Xavier's caliber. If only Ian knew how special I really am. Party time. Just go ahead and try, I laugh. Try and steal me from him. I point as a huffing and puffing Xavier stands in the doorway. He is staring at our linked hands with barely veiled disgust. I smirk, willing to play a little game of my own. I thought you were gone for the day, I exclaim, ripping my hands from his with so much force that I nearly spin, and rushing to him. I'm so glad you're back, I give him one of his own bone-crushing hugs, and out of the corner of my eye. I see him slightly wince. Act lovey-dovey, I hiss in his ear whilst delving for a kiss on his neck. It burns when I touch him with my soft lips, tingling with passion that is about to break from its collar. Xavier is bewildered for a minute, then he joins in, his arms wrapping around my form. For a minute, there is no place I would rather be. I subconsciously close my eyes, drowning in his intoxicating aroma. I know you guys are faking, Ian says confidently. What are you talking about? I ask, pulling away from Xavier so I can see Ian's smug face. The curtain is closed, and the critic isn't satisfied. He grins knowingly. You don't do anything that regular couples would. You've fooled the rest of the school, but not me. I see how you rip your hand from Xavier in the hallways. I know that you don't love him. I look from Ian to Xavier, alarmed. I rush to him, hugging him tightly. I should become an actress. Why would you say that? I rant. That is so mean. I shoot Ian a death glare, and for a moment. Ian seems unsettled. And for another second, in the safety of his warm hands. I am unsettled too. Maybe I have been lying to myself all this time. Away from the eyes of our audience, practically buried in each other's arms. Xavier shoots me a wink. I roll my eyes, and the forbidden question flits out of my head like a stray thought, ready to return at a later date. A date I am definitely not waiting for. Okay then, Ian shrugs. If you hate me so much, then we can just be friends first. He grins mischievously. I know, sooner or later, you will be falling for my irresistible charm. I did save you, you know. Save you? Xavier asks suspiciously. narrowing his beautiful eyes. From what? The animal in him seems to rise, and for a second I spy the wolf in him, baring his teeth at the intruder. Ian's perfectly shaped mouth twists into a smirk. Sydney, well, was having one of her bad days, he hints, leading Xavier to the obvious. He turns to me, utmost concern carved in his features. What did she do to you? He asks with probing eyes that look into my soul. Nothing. I lower my eyes, ashamed that I couldn't have taken care of it myself. Ashamed that once again, someone had to save me. Anger builds up in him, clouding his handsome features. Tell me. For a second, I can sense his ancient, yet perfectly preserved mind, superior in almost every way as he speaks to Ian. Don't get angry with him, I yell, running between them. I will tell you myself. My breaths are heavy as Xavier finally turns to me, the anger dissipated from his face. However, some bafflement is still in his expression. Why would I save Ian from his wrath? I don't know for sure myself. What happened? Mona, he questions me softly, gently. I am nearly choking the sentences out, for it is my failure. I do not want Ian to tell, for Xavier will kill him, whereas he will only be disappointed in me if my lips form the words. But I don't want him to be disappointed. I want him to be proud. They bullied me. I look to the floor, staring at the floor. Because I am different. Because you talk to me. Silence sizzles through the air, thoughts lingering on the tip of my tongue. Because suddenly I have everything they have ever wanted, I whisper, concluding my insight. Xavier's eyebrows rise slightly, and he chuckles. Jealousy, huh? I stare at his face, contorted with amusement. He doesn't even seem serious. So what did they do to bully you? They were about to cut her with a knife, Ian cuts in. They already slapped her and bruised her with their words. I marvel over Ian's thoughtful diction. They bruised me with words. Nothing suits the impact better. Xavier straightens. The laughter vanishing from him as quickly as a stray thought. Sydney slapped Mona, his words are full of caution and worry. Did she draw blood? Of course she did, Ian shrugs. You know how she likes to wear a ton of rings. His face is now robotic. How fast did it heal? About 30 seconds, I say quickly. They called me a monster. Memories rise in my mind, most of which I can barely bear to remember. Xavier doesn't even look at me, staring at Ian. Mona, go home. Wes is checking you out. I will join you later. What? I stare at his deathly serious face with unrestrained worry. Suddenly it seems as if the happiness is sucked from the room. Xavier walking closer to Ian with measured footsteps. Go home, he growls at me, and I literally jump back. I am not fond of this side of him. It is as if Xavier morphs into someone I do not know at times like this. Quickly I race out the door and into the hallway, bringing the door to a gentle halt behind me. The last glimpse I snag of them is when they are inches apart. Xavier demanding something from Ian with surprising force. What is he planning? Why did their discovery of my quick healing change his attitude so much? I force myself to trust him, walking down the hallway slowly. Deep in thought. I wonder what exactly Xavier wanted to talk to Ian about. Everything seems so mysterious now, cloaked in secrecy. Everything went through a complete and total change, a 180-degree turn of behavior in that extremely hot classroom. Why did he send me away? A golden vision troops to meet me just as the bell rings, people coming out of the classrooms and almost completely stopping at the sight. Such beautiful, shiny gold hair. Not one person has hair even close to that color in the entire school. Even Sydney's voluptuous blonde hair pales in comparison to this man. I sigh as Wes waves at me, knowing exactly what will come next. Great. Another round of whispers to pass among my classmates. Mona, he calls, as if waving isn't enough. We have to go. He finally reaches me, putting his handsome face near my ear. Shivers run up and down my arm as he touches my arm. We captured the shifter, and you need to get there to coax it out as soon as possible. People are edging closer to the rays of sunshine reflecting off his hair with eyes of wonder. Many more are staring at me with viciously envious eyes. They must be wondering why I am suddenly talking to all these beautiful guys. I'm still wondering that too. I allow Wes to drag me to the door, passing the tons of silent, staring people that would probably love to chop me in half right now. His hand feels so warm, but doesn't burn me like Xavier's touch does. They are both incredibly handsome. Yet each of them feels so different. Right before he whisks me outside, the door where I just exited swings open and two beautiful guys step out. One has dizzyingly blue eyes, while the other outshines him with eyes of emeralds and azure hair that glitters in the sunlight. Each move the blue-haired man makes is graceful and smooth, his body flawless. Some eyes are immediately magnetized to this new entrance. Sydney appears in the hallway, walking as if she is about to faint. Cloudiness is in her eyes, and she almost stumbles down the walkway when she sees my face. However, she quickly turns from me and rights herself, heading to Ian as he waves her over. She transforms into the beauty queen she is right before our eyes, fluttering her eyelashes at Xavier as she starts to talk to him. And Xavier begins to truly talk back. I can see the corner of his mouth turn up in a flirtatious smirk.